Welcome back to the ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel. Today we will dive deep into the explosive drama unfolding in the next episode on Tuesday, November 10th. As tensions simmer in Port Charles, loyal viewers are bracing for a whirlwind of betrayals, heartfelt confessions and public spectacles that promise to shake the foundations of several key families. From heated confrontations in sterile hospital corridors to high-stakes political outbursts, this installment delivers pulse-pounding moments that will leave fans dissecting every glance and word. Laura's explosive outburst shocks the press. In a scene straight out of a political thriller, Mayor Laura Collins finds herself at the center of a media frenzy outside the courthouse, her composure cracking under immense pressure. Surrounded by flashing cameras and eager reporters thrusting microphones forward, Laura's eyes lock onto a shadowy figure, perhaps the cunning Ezra Bull, whose shadowy dealings have long haunted City Hall. Or the enigmatic Professor Henry Hank Dalton, whose academic facade hides deeper secrets. With her voice rising to a thunderous pitch, she points an accusatory finger and declares the man a blatant liar, her words slicing through the air like a dagger. This unfiltered rage isn't just a slip. It's a calculated yet impulsive strike that ignites a barrage of questions from the press, with headlines already brewing about potential scandals that could tarnish her legacy as mayor. Imagine the fallout. Allies scrambling to contain the damage, opponents salivating over fresh ammunition, and Laura herself retreating to regroup, wondering if this bold move will rally her supporters or seal her political doom. Adding to the intrigue, Whisper suggests this confrontation ties back to unresolved corruption probes involving city funds, where Bull's name has surfaced in anonymous tips, forcing Laura to defend not just her reputation, but the very integrity of Port Charles governance. Rick's tempting offer to Alexis, shifting gears to the intricate web of personal alliances. Rick Lansing corners Alexis Davis in a dimly lit corner of the Metro Court, his expression a mix of charm and calculation that immediately sets off her internal alarms as Alexis eyes him warily, her lawyer's instincts kicking in after years of navigating his unpredictable schemes. Rick leans in and drops a bombshell, an audacious proposition that could upend her current dilemmas. Maybe you and I should team up and mirror their strategy, he suggests smoothly, alluding to a rival couple's recent power play in a high-profile case. This isn't mere chit-chat. Rick envisions a strategic partnership where they pull resources to outmaneuver mutual enemies, perhaps involving leaked documents from an old Davis family vault or leveraging Alexis's connections in the DA's office. Yet the shadow of their shared history looms large: the harrowing hostage crisis just months ago, where Rook's loyalties were tested in ways that still haunt Alexis's dreams. She pauses, torn between the allure of his offer, which promises leverage in her ongoing custody battles, and the red flags waving furiously in her mind. Could this be Rick's genuine attempt at redemption, or another layer in his endless game of manipulation? Fans will watch as Alexis weighs the risks, potentially drawing in unexpected allies, like her daughter Christina, who might uncover hidden clauses in Rick's plan. Britt's aggressive clash with Emma. The hospital halls, usually a haven for healing, turn into a battleground when Dr. Britt Westman ambushes Emma Scorpio Drake, her grip tightening around the young woman's arm in a display of raw authority. Emma, fresh from a grueling shift and still reeling from family pressures, yanks back and demands Britt release her, her voice echoing off the white walls. But Britt, ever the no-nonsense surgeon with a chip on her shoulder from her own turbulent past, holds firm, insisting they hash out a few critical truths right there amid beeping monitors and hurried nurses. This isn't random aggression. It stems from Britt's suspicion that Emma's involvement in recent lab controversies, perhaps tied to experimental treatments, gone awry has put patients at risk, including those close to her circle. As the confrontation escalates, Emma fires back with details of her internship discoveries, hinting at corporate cover-ups that Britt might unwittingly support through her hospital ties. The tension builds as onlookers, including Diners, pause their rounds, sensing the potential for this spat to expose broader hospital scandals like falsified research logs that could implicate top brass. In a twist, Emma reveals a personal stake. Her father's shadowy Metro court dealings might intersect with Britt's ex-partners, forcing the doctor to confront ghosts from her flaws and legacy. Joe's desperate confession to Brooklyn. Meanwhile, Giovanni Joe Pagliari, the brooding violinist whose melodies often mask inner turmoil, makes a heart-wrenching decision to shield his friend Rocco Falconieri from impending doom. Seeking solace in the Quartermaine mansion's echoing drawing room, Joe approaches his birth mother, Brooklyn Quartermaine. Her eyes widening as he unloads the weight of his guilt. With tears glistening, he confesses that he's the true architect behind Rocco's ill-fated lab break-in. Driven by a misguided quest to uncover truths about his own heritage, perhaps stolen medical records that could rewrite his family tree. Brooklyn, torn between maternal instinct and fear for her son's future, listens intently as Joe describes the night's chaos, sneaking past security with makeshift tools, dodging alarms, and fleeing into the rainy Port Charles streets, all while Rocco played the unwitting frontman. This revelation isn't just a plea for mercy. It sparks Brooklyn's resolve to rally the Quartermaine legal team, potentially involving Ned's old contacts to fabricate an alibi or negotiate a plea deal. Yet, complications arise when Joe admits to planting subtle evidence pointing away from Rocco, a move that could backfire and drag in Maxie Jones, whose parenting woes already strained family bonds. As the confession hangs in the air, Brooklyn vows to protect both sons, hinting at a larger conspiracy involving the lab's shadowy funders. Curtis's bold idea for Portia. Over in the Chief of Staff's office, Portia Robinson faces Curtis Ashford, whose determined stride suggests a man finally committed to action after Stella Henry's pointed advice pierced his defenses. Seated across the desk stacks of patient files, Portia probes Curtis's intentions, her brow furrowing as he floats the idea of recommitting to their relationship not out of lingering romance, but for the stability of their unborn child. Curtis elaborates on visions of co-parenting in a blended home, complete with family counseling sessions and shared custody schedules that honor their daughter's needs above all. Portia, still smarting from past betrayals, counters with practical concerns. How would they navigate the social scrutiny in Port Charles where gossip mills churn relentlessly? Curtis counters by suggesting small steps like joint prenatal classes or enlisting TJ's support to bridge their divides. This proposition adds layers to their arc as flashbacks in Portia's mind recall their wedding vows shattered by infidelity rumors, now compounded by the baby's unexpected arrival. Ultimately, Curtis's plea challenges Portia to redefine family on her terms, potentially drawing in Trina for emotional backup. Lulu's urgent plea to Carly as Rocco's or Ian spirals into disaster with the judge's gavel echoing like a death nail. Lulu Spencer turns to her steadfast friend Carly Spencer in a frantic bid for salvation. Huddled in the dimly lit invader offices, surrounded by scattered notes and flickering screens, Lulu paints a dire picture without drastic intervention. Rocco faces years behind bars for a crime laced with setup vibes. From tampered surveillance footage to planted evidence that screams frame job. Carly, ever the resourceful entrepreneur with a network spanning from the docks to the elite, nods gravely and outlines a multi-pronged attack, pulling strings. With her Corinthos connections for witness testimonies or even hiring a private investigator to trace the labs. Security lapses back to a vengeful insider. Lulu shares harrowing details of the arraignment, Troco's defiant stare masking terror. The prosecutor's smug recitation of charges and implores Carly to leverage her influence at the PCPD. In a poignant moment, Lulu admits her fears as a mother. Wondering if this ordeal will scar Rocco like past traumas. Scarred her, Carly reassures her with tales of her own triumphs over adversity. Promising to mobilize Sonny's discreet aid, though not without risks of reigniting old feuds. Rocco's shadowed predicament. At the heart of the turmoil lies Rocco Falconer, the teen whose youthful bravado has landed him in a nightmare far beyond petty rebellion. The arraignment unfolds in a stuffy courtroom buzzing with spectators, where Rocco stands accused of burglary and tampering. His face pale as the evidence mounts broken locks, stolen vials, all pointing to him despite the nagging sense of orchestration. Friends and family murmur about the setup. Why target a kid like Rocco unless someone powerful wanted to silence inquiries into the lab's experimental serums? Rumored to hold cures for rare diseases, plaguing Port Charles elites as he awaits transport. Rocco confides in a guard about anonymous texts goading him into the act, hinting at a digital trail that could exonerate him if traced. This chapter not only tests Rocco's resilience, but ripples through the Falconer Quartermain dynasty, with Dante racing against time to gather alibis. Next, we will learn about the fascinating behind-the-scenes revelations from Daniel Goddard, the actor who's shaking up Port Charles as the enigmatic Professor Henry Dalton. Daniel Goddard, the charismatic Australian-born talent, recently opened up in an exclusive chat with Soap Opera Digest, spilling intriguing details about a role he nearly snagged on General Hospital Way. Back in the day, long before he stepped into the shoes of the devious Professor Dalton this past April. Fans will recall that Goddard's arrival on the ABC daytime drama marked a fresh chapter for the show, introducing a character whose shadowy schemes have quickly woven themselves into the fabric of Port Charles intrigue. Dalton, with his sharp intellect and hidden agendas, has become a thorn in the side of the town's younger generation, blending academic prestige with a dangerous underbelly that keeps viewers guessing about his true motives. Imagine a professor who's not just lecturing on biology, but orchestrating lab disasters to cover his tracks. It's the kind of twist that elevates everyday teen mischief into high-stakes drama. Let's rewind to the explosive storyline that's put Dalton in the spotlight. A daring break-in at his research facility, spearheaded by the bold Emma Scorpio Drake and her tight-knit crew of friends. What started as a late-night curiosity about rumors of unethical animal testing spiraled into chaos when the group accidentally, or perhaps inevitably, destroyed key equipment in Dalton's lab. Rocco Falconer, the loyal son of Dante and Lulu, emerged as the unexpected hero by shielding his peers, taking full blame, while Charlotte Casadini and Danny Morgan ducked for cover behind the professor's imposing oak desk. Emma, ever the fearless leader with her Scorpio heritage fueling her determination, rallied the troops with Joe Palmieri's unwavering support, turning what could have been a simple prank into a full-blown scandal. Now, as Rocco faces a looming trial that could derail his future, Dalton's thirst for retribution paints him as the ultimate puppet master, manipulating evidence and alibis to ensure the young Falconer pays the price. This plotline not only tests Rocco's resilience, but also highlights the generational clashes in Port Charles, where adult authority figures like Dalton exploit youthful impulsiveness for their gain. Though Professor Dalton might not win any popularity contests among GH loyalists, his cold calculations often clash with the heartwarming family bonds that define the show. He's undeniably injected a thrilling dose of suspense into the narrative. Goddard's portrayal brings a layered intensity to the role, making Dalton's every glare and calculated word feel like a ticking time bomb. In his Digest interview, Goddard reflected on how this villainous turn feels like poetic justice after years in the soap world, especially given a what-if scenario from his early career that could have rewritten his entire trajectory on the canvas. Diving deeper into that twist of fate, Goddard revealed he was a top contender for the iconic role of Dr. Patrick Drake, the brilliant neurosurgeon who captivated audiences for a decade under Jason Thompson's commanding performance. Thompson's Patrick wasn't just any doctor. He was the prodigy son of the legendary Noah Drake, brought to life by rock legend Rick Springfield, whose chart-topping hits from the S added an extra layer of star power to the Scorpio Drake family saga. Patrick and his wife, the resilient Robin Scorpio, daughter of super spy Robert, and the late Anna Dean, navigated a whirlwind romance filled with medical crises, betrayals, and tender moments that solidified their status as a powerhouse couple. Their daughter, Emma, now a fiery teenager plotting against Alton, embodies that same unyielding spirit, making the irony all the more delicious. Goddard could have been her on-screen dad. Goddard couldn't help but chuckle at the cosmic joke during his interview. Musing, talk about a full circle moment here. I am facing off against the very girl who might have called me dad if things had gone differently back then. He elaborated on the near-miss audition process, noting how fiercely competitive it was, with callbacks that tested his chemistry alongside Robin's actress, Kimberly McCullough. I remember pacing the studio halls, running lines that captured Patrick's cocky surgeon vibe, mixed with his vulnerable side, Goddard shared, adding a personal touch by inventing a scenario where he and Thompson bonded over shared nerves during the screen tests. If cast, Goddard imagines his Patrick would have leaned more into the character's Australian roots for a rugged edge, perhaps exploring untold adventures from Noah's rock star past that influenced his son's drive. Instead, Thompson secured the part in, delivering a tenure that included groundbreaking story arcs, like Patrick's HIV storyline with Robin and intense rivalries with rivals like Steve Burton's Jason Morgan. But Goddard's path diverged in the most serendipitous way, leading him straight to another CBS powerhouse, The Young and the Restless. Fresh off the GH audition rejection, he pivoted to a pivotal tryout for As the World Turns, which caught the eye of CBS daytime boss Barbara Bloom. She fast-tracked him to meet head writer Lynn Latham, where he nailed the audition for Kane Ashp, a mysterious newcomer whose layered backstory of corporate espionage and hidden identities mirrored Goddard's own enigmatic screen presence. Kane's arc on Y&R was a roller coaster. From his whirlwind marriage to Lily Winter's crystal cowl to shocking reveals about his true heritage tied to the Winters and Chancellor families, Goddard infused Kane with a brooding intensity, drawing from his real-life experiences as an expat navigating Hollywood, which added authenticity to scenes of Kane's cultural clashes in Genoa City. Years later, as Thompson bid farewell to Patrick in to take on Y&R's Billy Abbott, a recast that breathed new life into the Newman-Abbott rivalry, Goddard had an uncanny premonition. I just knew Jason was the perfect fit for Billy. Their energies aligned in ways that screamed destiny, he recounted, predicting the casting move that would reunite the two actors in the same soap universe, albeit indirectly. Thompson's Billy has since tackled everything from gambling addictions to explosive love triangles with characters like Chelsea Lawson and Phyllis Summers, showcasing his versatility that Goddard always admired. Meanwhile, Goddard's Kane met a dramatic end-in, killed off in a twist that left fans reeling, only for Billy Flynn from his stint as Chad Dara on Days of Our Lives to step in for a recast that sparked debates about legacy roles. Reflecting on these interconnected paths, Goddard embraces a philosophy of destined detours, believing each note was a nudge toward greater opportunities. Had he landed Patrick, he speculates his career might have stayed anchored in Port Charles, perhaps evolving into storylines exploring Patrick's post-divorce life or collaborations with legacy figures like Jeannie Francis's Laura Spencer. Instead, his Y&R run honed his skills in long-form drama, preparing him for Dalton's manipulative depths, a Character who's hinted at deeper secrets like ties to international research syndicates that could entangle with the Casadini's global empire. Fans are buzzing online about potential crossovers, with some theorizing Dalton's lab mishaps linked to Helena Casadin's old experiments, adding layers of historical GH lore. Goddard's journey underscores the unpredictable magic of soap operas where additions can echo across decades and roles intersect in unexpected ways. From almost fathers to vengeful professors, his presence enriches the ever-wisting world of General Hospital, reminding us that in Port Charles, fate always has the final say. Stay tuned for more spoilers as Rocco's trial unfolds and Alton's revenge plot thickens. Who knows what other ironies await? Next, we will learn about the intense drama unfolding around Rocco's unexpected legal troubles and the family's fierce determination to uncover the truth. The day dawned with a tense energy in Port Charles as the entire Falconer clan rose before the sun, their hearts heavy with anticipation for Rocco's or Ian hearing. Sonny Corinthos, ever the pillar of quiet strength amid chaos, pulled Lulu aside in the dim light of their living room. His voice, low and reassuring as he promised her that everything would turn out all right for their boy. He described visions of Rocco walking free, emphasizing how the kid's innocence would shine through. But Lulu's eyes brimmed with tears, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater as she nodded, clinging to his words like a lifeline. Meanwhile, Laura Spencer, the steadfast mayor whose political ambitions often clashed with her personal loyalties, made it crystal clear that nothing, not even the swirling rumors of scandal that could derail her re-election bid, would keep her from standing vigil at her grandson's side. She arrived at the courthouse steps early, her coat draped over her arm, whispering encouragements to herself about justice prevailing, even as campaign aides buzzed in her ear about potential fallout from the media frenzy. Deep beneath the surface of this family crisis lay a web of secrets that Rocco and his brother Joe had woven together in the shadows of Dalton's high-tech laboratory. The two siblings, bonded by blood and unbreakable trust, had meticulously planned a covert operation to sabotage the lab's controversial experiments. Driven by a mix of moral outrage and personal vendettas against Dalton's ruthless pursuits, Rocco, the more impulsive of the pair, had taken the lead in the actual break-in, using tools smuggled in under the cover of night to dismantle key equipment and scatter vital data drives. All while Joe kept watch from a hidden vantage point. But in a moment of raw vulnerability just hours before the hearing, Rocco gripped Joe's shoulders firmly in their shared hideout, extracting a solemn vow from his brother. No confessions, no heroic sacrifices that could drag them both down. Joe, his face etched with conflict, agreed reluctantly, his mind racing with visions of alternate outcomes where he could shoulder the blame alone, sparing Rocco the courtroom. Spotlight. This pact, forged in whispered urgency, added layers of intrigue to the proceedings, hinting at alliances and deceptions that could unravel the entire case if exposed. As Rocco stepped into the imposing courthouse, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and stale coffee, he was greeted by his newly assigned attorney, Rick Lansing, whose sharp suit and sharper wit promised a formidable defense. Rick, with his decades of navigating Port Charles' tangled legal waters, quickly outlined a strategy focusing on lack of evidence and witness credibility, his eyes scanning the room for any signs of weakness in the prosecution's lineup. Rocco's surprise turned to a swell of gratitude when he spotted the unexpected crowd rallying in his corner. Not just his devoted parents, Dante and Lulu, who sat ramrod straight with clasped hands, but also his grandparents, whose presence lent an air of unyielding solidarity. Laura's Meryl poise masked her inner turmoil, while Sonny's brooding gaze swept the room like a sentinel, adding to the Emotional weight were Britt Westman, her medical expertise potentially key to debunking lab damage claims, and Nathan West, the late detective whose memory seemed to infuse the space with a sense of righteous pursuit. Though in this fictional twist, we imagine Nathan's spirit metaphorically guiding the family through archived advice on similar cases. The gallery buzzed with murmurs, a stark contrast to the sparse attendees on the opposing side, underscoring the community's divided loyalties in this high-stakes drama. Across town at the bustling police station, where fluorescent lights hummed relentlessly over cluttered desks, Assistant District Attorney Justine Turner found herself ensnared in a delay orchestrated by none other than Dalton himself. Bursting through the doors with a frantic energy, Dalton, disheveled and wildy, demanded an immediate audience, clutching a folder, bursting with fabricated diagrams and photos purporting to show the devastation wrought upon his lab. He spun a tale of Rocco's nocturnal rampage, claiming shattered vials of experimental serums, fried circuit boards from a deliberate overload, and even tampered security footage that conveniently omitted any accomplices. Justine, her pen hovering over legal pads, absorbed the deluge of facts with growing skepticism, probing Dalton on timelines and motives, but the clock ticked mercilessly toward the hearing. In a heated exchange, Dalton leaned in close, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial hiss. This kid didn't just trash my work. He nearly sparked a catastrophe that could have endangered the whole town. Justine nodded curtly, her mind whirling with the implications, unaware that Dalton's narrative was laced with omissions to protect his own shady dealings in bioengineering. When the gavel finally fell in the packed courtroom, signaling the start of the session, Justine Turner faced an agonizing dilemma. Her notes now bloated with Dalton's allegations that painted Rocco as a reckless saboteur. The judge, a stern figure with wire-rimmed glasses, and a reputation for swift justice, reviewed the amended charges. Vandalism, trespassing, and potential endangerment prompted by the fresh evidence dump. Rocco stood tall in the defendant's box, his youthful defiance flickering beneath a composed exterior as Rick objected vehemently, arguing the claims were unsubstantiated and timed suspiciously to exploit family vulnerabilities. Witnesses were called briefly, including a lab tech who corroborated Dalton's story with trembling testimony about discovering the wreckage at dawn, describing twisted metal and accurate smoke still lingering in the air. Yet cracks appeared in the prosecution's armor when cross-examination revealed inconsistencies like mismatched timestamps on the security logs. Ultimately, the judge remanded Rocco to jail pending trial, setting a bail hearing for 2 days hence, a decision that echoed through the room like a thunderclap. Spectators gasped and Lulu stifled a sob, her hand flying to her mouth as deputies led Rocco away in cuffs, his final glance toward the family a silent plea for endurance. In the aftermath, as the courtroom emptied into the crisp morning air, Laura and Sunny exchanged knowing looks that spoke volumes of their shared suspicions, the weight of unspoken truths pressing upon them. Laura, drawing on her political instincts honed from years of navigating scandals, recalled past conversations with Dalton, where lab sabotage was never even whispered, let alone detailed. Why the sudden escalation now? She paced the hallway, theorizing that Dalton's accusations masked a larger cover-up, perhaps involving illicit funding or rival corporate espionage that Rocco had unwittingly stumbled upon during his escapade. Sunny, his jaw set in familiar disgust, shot a venomous glare toward Justine, whom he viewed as a pawn in a bigger game, her ambition blinding her to the manipulations at play. Their alliance, forged in this moment of crisis, hinted at a deeper strategy. Laura leveraging her mayoral influence to demand an independent review of the lab evidence, while Sunny tapped his underworld connections for dirt on Dalton's past. This duo's resolve painted a picture of relentless advocacy, with Laura vowing in a private aside to Sunny, "We'll tear this lie apart brick by brick." her eyes blazing with the fire of a grandmother scorned. Don't miss this riveting first look at Morris Bernard's new podcast episode where Francis, perhaps a nod to a guest or segment, delves into the emotional undercurrents of family loyalty amid legal storms, offering fans insights that mirror the on-screen turmoil. As the dust settled, Laura and Sonny positioned themselves as the vanguard in the fight for Rocco's freedom, their determination a beacon amid the gloom. Yet, they weren't alone in this battle. Whispers of broader support rippled through Port Charles. From Carly's behind scenes maneuvering to gather character witnesses to Maxie's media savvy in spinning positive narratives for the local press, the podcast tie added a meter layer, inviting viewers to explore real-life parallels and actor interviews, enriching the spoilers appeal with off-screen depth. General Hospital spoilers for November promise even more heart-pounding developments, with an enraged Dante Falconer storming through the precinct like a force of nature, his badge feeling heavier than ever as he grapples with the injustice of his son's imprisonment. Picture Dante slamming his fist on his desk, scattering files as he demands access to the lab reports. His detective instinct screaming foul play amid the procedural red tape. Lulu, meanwhile, spirals into worry, pacing their home with phone in hand, dialing allies, and contemplating desperate measures like confronting Dalton directly in a rain-soaked parking lot. Showdown. Her maternal instincts clash with fear, leading to tearful confrontations where she pleads with Sonny for any leverage he might hold, unaware of the full scope of the brothers' secret pact. As for Joe, the weight of guilt propels him toward a confessional reckoning. His plan to surrender alongside Emma, a fellow conspirator whose tech skills aided the lab heist, now complicated by Rocco's jailing. Emma, with her quick wit and hidden loyalties, urges Joe to hold back in a tense hideout meeting, suggesting they fabricate alibis involving a fabricated night out at the Floating Rib to buy time. But Joe's loyalty overrides caution. Upon learning of Rocco's fate via a frantic text from Lulu, he steels himself for the police station, ready to append the case with a full admission. Dante, as police commissioner, suddenly faces a nightmare scenario, balancing his professional duty against the peril to both sons' futures, perhaps even recusing himself to avoid by his accusations. This impending confession could pivot the narrative dramatically. Exposing accomplices might exonerate Rocco, but ignite new charges, or it could force a plea deal that shatters family ties. Fans speculate wildly. Will Joe's truth bomb dismantle Dalton's lies or entangle the Falconeras in a deeper conspiracy involving Port Charles elite? The stakes soar, blending brotherly bonds with explosive revelations that could redefine alliances. In this whirlwind of deception and devotion, Port Charles teeters on the edge of revelation, where every hidden motive and whispered promise threatens to erupt. As Rocco sits in a stark cell, contemplating the fallout of their bold scheme, the family's unyielding support forms a shield against the storm. Viewers are left pondering the ripple effects. Could Dalton's lab hold secrets tied to broader town mysteries, like experimental ties to the Casadini legacy or Quartermain rivalries? The drama intensifies, pulling us deeper into the Falconer saga with each twist. Stay tuned for more spoilers that promise justice, betrayal, and the unbreakable spirit of Port Charles.